going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Dan, Kevin, Stevie P coming at you once again. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, listeners? What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, everybody?
All right, so today we are going to talk a little news, and then we're going to do a little exercise where we're going to go through the first six rounds of the draft, and we're just going to give you our safest and riskiest, biggest risk in each round. We'll read off the players, and based off ADPs, that's how we're going to go. But first, don't forget to check out the website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com. For a bunch of content, you got articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide, which features the decision maker, which is a tiered out guideline for three different drafting styles. You got your risky drafter, you got your conservative drafter, and then you got the tweener, which is basically a mix of both. The draft guide also features the cheat codes, which is a visual breakdown of every team's stats from last year. It's a great tool to prepare for your drafts, and it's the same tool we use to give you the information on the podcast today. So check that out, and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing starting sit questions throughout the year, and we are looking into doing a keeper question segment, before the year starts as well. And also, if you're listening, hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. We've also partnered with FantasyGo.com. FantasyGo.com is basically a website where you can go on and you can pick your favorite analyst. Obviously, you'd be picking us, and you put your lineup in, and we'll set it for you. And it's a great way to win games during your fantasy season. So check that out as well. So let's get into today's podcast. We're going to start it off with Antonio Brown still not practicing today. Do you think this is an issue? I mean, I see it as a little bit of an issue. It's a new guy and a new team. I think he would want to get a little bit of chemistry with Derek Carr. And I'm sure Gruden is one of those old school mentality guys, so I'm sure he can't be happy that Antonio Brown isn't practicing yet.
It's just I think his toenail paint's not dry yet. That's probably all it is.
I'm not super concerned. I mean, we still have, we all know that week one of the, preseason is not too exciting. It's nothing much, going on. They might get a series or two, and then they're all going to be out of the game. So if he's not practicing by, next week or, the week after, then I would start being like, okay, I mean, this is something definitely to look in.
Yeah, the news. I just think that the news broadcasters, they're just reaching for whatever they can grab right now to get an article, to grab a headline, get some readers' attention, because it's just this is that lull where you're waiting for it to amp up and everyone's just starting to get excited about football. But yeah, they're definitely, unless I hear anything serious, I'm not real concerned.
Yep, definitely just a wait and see item. Like I said, it would definitely ease people's minds if you knew he was out there developing that chemistry with Derek Carr. Let's move on to the next item. ESPN's Nick Wagner said Matt Breida has been used all over the place at 49ers training camp. How do you guys feel about Matt Breida?
Like I said, I think all these guys are viable. I think everybody on that running back crew is viable. I've been saying that for weeks, and I haven't changed my mind about it. I just think in a Kyle Shanahan offense, all these guys are viable on your team. I've been saying I want 2 out of the 3 if I can get 2 out of the 3, but I think Matt Breida, definitely has a chance to see the field. I think all 3 of them are going to see the field, this year.
I'm not real high on Breida. I mean, I know he turned it on last year. He sort of gained a little bit more of a role, but he's battling against 2 guys that I think are clearly better than he is. So I'm not really a whole lot on that subject that I need to go into. If I'm going to pick a guy on that team, it's going to be one of the other 2.
Yeah, we kind of touched on Jerick McKinnon yesterday, and I kind of talked about my feelings a little bit. I think Jerick McKinnon, they just want him to get 100% healthy. They're paying him buku bucks to be, a guy who apparently is going to be their second running back. I don't believe that. I think if they thought Breida was better than Jerick McKinnon, they would have cut or traded Jerick McKinnon. So I think McKinnon and Coleman are going to be more viable options, and I think they're probably looking for different ways to use Breida because they want Breida on the field because they don't really have a lot of talent on the outside either. They drafted Deebo Samuel. They still got Dante Pettis. You got Marquise Goodwin, but none of those guys are, number one viable receivers right now. So maybe they're just looking for extra ways to get Breida on the field and try to get the ball in his hands. Move on to the next one. Cowboys right guard Zach Martin will undergo an MRI on his injured back. This is very viable news. This guy is maybe the best guard in the NFL. If not, he's definitely a top 5. And, you're talking about a Cowboys line that, over the last couple of years has really started to decrease. They were by far, the best line a few years back. And then, it's just, they're still good, but they've gone down. And if Zach Martin's not there, that could really hurt Zeke and, maybe not Dak as much. I mean, because more of that pressure is going to be coming from the outside. But I think maybe it hurts Zeke a little bit. But Zeke's still a good player. So Zach Martin, how you guys feel about it hurting the team at all?
Yeah, I think Zach Martin not being there is going to definitely hurt the offense. I don't know how much, it's hard to quantify how much that's going to hurt the offense, but I definitely think it's going to be a blow to an offensive line that is just getting, Travis Frederick back and trying to become, a whole unit again. So, I think building the chemistry won't, they already had chemistry before, so I don't think that is an issue, but if this is something serious, maybe the MRI comes back that he has a bulging disc that he needs surgery on, or something crazy. You never know. So it is what it is. Right at this point, we just have to sit and wait and see what's going on with him, and hopefully, I don't wish injury on any player, so I hope he is healthy and he plays this season.
Yeah, I mean he's a Cowboy. I don't wish injury, but I wish a little bit of setback. But no, it's definitely calls for concern. This is an offensive line that's slowly built up to be one of the top 2 or 3 in all the league. They got the chemistry. They've developed that rapport with Zeke, and why most people consider him the best pure runner in the league. So with Zeke sitting out and now him with his injury concern, this Cowboys team is definitely not as high, I guess, early highs as people might think. They definitely have a few tinkers to work out. So or see exactly where they stand as far as with Zach and of course with Zeke. So yeah, I'm not happy about the injury, but I got a slight smirk on my face that the Cowboys team isn't exactly riding high right now.
Yeah, and actually we'll just move into Ezekiel Elliott. Every day there seems like there's a new quote coming out from the Ezekiel Elliott saga, mostly coming from Jerry Jones, it seems, but he's saying that now, this holdout could go on for months and last into the season. I don't know if this is just wordplay from Jerry Jones and he's just saying kind of what he has to say at this point to try and hold firm on his stance of look, you have another couple years on your contract, get the hell in here and play. But what do you guys think about this? The Jerry Jones kind of saying that this could go into the season now.
It's definitely something to look at, but Jerry Jones is one of those guys that I don't believe a fucking word he says. You know what I mean? He's one of those dudes that says shit just to say shit because he loves being on TV. You know what I mean? Like, you literally can't listen to Jerry Jones and fucking believe a word the dude says because he doesn't. I don't even know if he realizes what he says sometimes. I think he just says shit to say shit. Like, come on. I understand what, fucking, trying to use tactics to make guys do things, but come on, Zeke knows how valuable he is to that fucking team. What was the point of him going the other day and saying, oh yeah, we don't need a fucking rushing champion to be a playoff or a Super Bowl champion. Like, motherfucker, if you don't have Zeke, you ain't going nowhere. That team might not even make the fucking no, it might not. Let's take that out. That team ain't making the playoffs without Zeke. So fuck all that noise that's coming out of Jerry Jones' mouth. The dude is just constantly blowing hot air out of his mouth, and I really don't care about anything he says. So really, it makes me nervous because, I think Zeke maybe had said something to them, to the effect of, if you guys don't fucking pay me, I ain't coming back. But, coming out of Jerry Jones' mouth, it doesn't really hold any kind of weight to me.
Yeah, they absolutely need Zeke to be relevant. I mean, we're talking about if you take Zeke out of the equation, right now you're in the plug and play spot with the guard we just mentioned. You have, Dak, who is super hot and cold. You got Amari Cooper, who had two, like we talked about with him, he had 2 strong games, and other than that, he was, not even practically on the field, irrelevant. And you have a 74-year-old tight end who just was in the booth last year. So without Zeke, that team could be a mess. I mean, I know that a lot of people are high on him this year with their offense, but it all goes through him. I mean, he is the heart and soul of that offense. He's the heartbeat. So I still think I'm a little more on the end of that he's going to sign than not. I don't think he's. If I had to pick between Gordon and Zeke on who I feel is more likely to sit out, is definitely Melvin. But when Jerry Jones says stuff like that, I mean, these guys they're very emotional. They're not. I know that this is their business and this is their livelihood, but they'll take this stuff that if the owner's trying to play hardball, they'll play hardball right back. So I mean, it isn't like if Jerry Jones came out and said we want him on the team right now, we're wishing him well to come back. It's who knows what's going on in Zeke's head. Only he knows, and his agent knows what the next step is.
Yeah, this is just kind of wait and see. I mean, he doesn't have to sign anything. I don't even know, like, I don't want to say it like this, but I really don't even know why he's holding out, because he's got 2 more years left on his contract. So, I guess maybe he wants an extension from past the 2 years, which I think they're pretty much almost guaranteed they're going to do. But I will say this: if they sit there and worry about Dak Prescott and getting him taken care of before Zeke, that is just a bad decision by this team.
It's a quarterback value league. They value quarterbacks way more than they don't value running backs in this league.
I dare them to play that game.
We're talking about one of the teams in the league that has a running back that is 10 times better than the quarterback. With most teams, I agree that you do need to pay the quarterback, and you can plug and play running backs because you can look how often it happens where you're not getting a lot of Tom Brady's in the 5th, 6th round to be your, or your Russell Wilsons in the 3rd round that are going to be a superstar in this league at quarterback. That happens 10 times a year at the running back position every single year. So I see where they're coming from when they say, that you got to pay the quarterback first, and then the running backs are basically just, you have 5 guys on the roster. One of them should pan out to be a good player. Most of the time that is right, but for what Zeke has done to that team so far, that's they're dumb if they try to really go that route.
Yeah, and that's actually part of it. I mean, Dak Prescott was a 3rd round pick. He didn't have, 1st round capability when he entered the draft. A lot of it is based off of, everybody's so worried about that running game. It just makes his life 100 times easier. I will say this: the first 3 weeks of the season, Cowboys played the Giants, the Redskins, and the Dolphins. Not the toughest schedule to open up the season for Dallas. And, we talked about the Emmitt Smith thing where they lost a couple games and then Emmitt got paid. While I don't think Dallas is a good team without Zeke, I definitely think that they can win all 3 of those games. And that could just make this even a little bit more of a pain in the ass situation if Zeke is not there come, the start of the season. So it's definitely something you got to pay attention to.
So real quick, before we get into the next topic, Zeke is being paid $3.8 million this year. That ranks like 27th among active running backs. So that's why he's holding out, because he's worth way more than $3.8 million, and they should be paying him more. You know, his performance has been
they can't
much
pay
better.
him. They can't pay him more right now. The rookie wage, like there's a rookie wage scale for this reason. This was set up by the players union and the owners. Like this is what they're, you know, there is no change to his contract until he's able to become a free agent. So he can't get more money this year. And really, I don't think he can get more money next year, because next year I believe is his 5th-year option. So, you know,
it's rare. It's rare that they do this. That they have this holdout 2 years before their contract's up. I mean, you see a lot of players hold out the year before their contract's up, and they fight for that extension. But this is a rare one that he does have 2 years left on his rookie contract, and he's holding out. You know, you don't normally see that. He knows his value, and he wants to be paid now. I don't think he wants another 350 touches on his body for $3.8 million. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, I hate the Cowboys, and I wouldn't either. I mean, that is for what these guys get paid for, some of these premier players, and Zeke is as premier in the league as they come. These guys are paid so much more, and he puts a pounding on his body.
Yeah, we'll have to research it a little bit further, but I'm pretty sure if they get an extension, they are allowed to get bonuses, and the bonuses can go to you immediately. It's not
that might be the case. He might be able to get a signing bonus immediately if he signs an extension. So that could definitely be something that is what he's looking for. But as far as his salary for this year, that can't change. Like there's a rookie wage scale that is set up for, you know, your first four years, and for first round picks really for your first 5 years if you're good. So, you know, this was a union thing too. Like this, you know, the union can fight it, or, you know, his agent can fight it, but this is something that the players union and the owners agreed on. And, you know, maybe they change it come the next CBA, which is coming in a couple of years. But
yeah, I got you.
All right.
So what's the next piece of news?
Move on to the next thing. Patriots signed Cameron Meredith, formerly of the Saints. You know, Cameron Meredith a few years back showed a lot of promise. You know, I can't remember if it was last year. I believe it was 2 years ago. He was with the Bears, and he came in and was, you know, everybody. He was one of those guys that was kind of being drafted for fantasy as like a you know, a guy with a ton of upside, and tore his ACL and, you know, missed the whole year. Last year he caught on with the Saints, and everybody was high on him again because he's, you know, going into the Saints, and, you know, they got Drew Brees and they got Sean Payton and a great offense, and he never really did anything there. Saints, you know, released him, and I believe it was like a week ago, and a week later he's picked up by New England. So how do you guys think this kind of works out? Do you think he's able to catch on with New England, maybe gain a role there, or is this just kind of, you know, another body for training camp in the preseason, and, you know, he'll be gone by the time the season starts?
Yeah, I'm not going to get real in depth with Cameron Meredith. You know, I think he is somebody that they're taking a flyer on because, you know, they need a spark. I think, you know, news coming out of there is that, you know, they really don't, you know, what is his name? Morris, whatever the hell his name is. Maurice Harris. Yeah, Maurice Harris has been, you know, basically their best receiver coming out of camp. And I don't think that's anything, you know, like I said, N'Keal Harry's going to have some growing pains in this offense, and it's going to be an issue. But, you know, Cameron Meredith is a guy that's been in the NFL. He knows the NFL, and, you know, I think the Patriots are just at this point throwing darts to try to get some, you know, receiver help, because they, you know, I think I would view this more as a Josh Gordon thing, you know, more that maybe they think Josh Gordon is definitely not coming back, so now they're just trying to fill the roster with wide receivers.
Or a Demaryius Thomas thing, because there was reports a couple days ago, I believe, that said they have no idea when Demaryius Thomas is going to be healthy. So it could be.
I was just going to touch on him and just say that it's basically what you just said, that, you know, they brought him in, and there was kind of high hopes about him having, you know, being a veteran, and he would find a good fit there. And now they just have no idea about what his health status is right now. So, I mean, my only thing about Meredith is basically what Steve said. I think he's just going to be another body. they'll see if they have anything there. If not, they'll move on.
All right. Cardinals second round wide receiver Andy Isabella is dealing with a minor knee injury. He's been a guy that, we've been talking about taking flyers on later in the draft. I believe, he's going somewhere between the 12th and 13th rounds. How do you guys feel about this injury? Does this affect, taking a flyer? Would you rather look somewhere else, maybe a Hollywood Brown or somebody in that area, or are you still up on Isabella?
No, to me it doesn't. Right now it's a non-issue. And most of these guys are non-issues. Most of these injuries, until it's gotten, it's a little bit of it more of an issue because he's a rookie. But if Andy Isabella comes back next week, fine. Then it's not going to be an issue. I'm just at this point I'm flying. What's the word? Co-pilot. I'm just kind of sitting there cruising. I'm not too worried about really any injury that's coming out of camp at this point until it gets to like week 2 of training camp and they're missing, significant time. I'm not really worried about it. And we haven't even hit week 1 yet. So at this point, to me, it's not, most of these injuries are non-issues.
Yeah, same. It's no reason to move them up or down or even, take a second glance at them at this point. Just whatever you graded them at before today, keep that and just, keep your ear into the news and see if anything else comes up or if he's back at training camp in a few days or in a week.
Yeah, a lot of these injuries, guys, most of them are just going to be wait and see things. We're just basically bringing them up so you guys have a heads up on what's going on. But, unless people are tearing ACLs or, having broken bones that, if you break a bone, you're out 6 weeks. That's putting you into the season at this point. Unless it's something serious like that, it's more just a wait and see type of thing. Lamar Jackson does not see himself running as much in 2019. So we talked a lot about Lamar Jackson the other day. He had 147 attempts. 147, right?
Yes, 147.
147 attempts in his first season, and that was in 7 games. So basically, you're talking about projecting that. You're basically projecting that into 300 carries for Lamar Jackson if he was to play a full 16. I definitely don't see him rushing for 300 carries. So this isn't really news. This isn't really breaking news. He's not going to run for 300 carries. But I still could see him running for $180, $190, maybe even 200. And like I said, that pace would be 100 less than what he was on before. So, yes, he may not run as much, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be running a shit ton.
Yeah, I in the next couple of days, guys, keep a lookout. There's going to be a blog post on the website, fourthandinchesff.com. We are starting this week coming up. We are all going to be posting blog posts 3 days a week. It's going to be Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays. Mondays will be Dan, Wednesdays will be me, and Fridays will be Kev. We'll each be putting a blog post up, and it's just going to be about random stuff. This week I actually chose to talk about Lamar Jackson. I titled it The Ultimate Cheat Code. For me, I think Lamar Jackson, I'll let you read it to really see what I'm saying. But, if he, like Kev said, if he was averaging 17 rushing attempts per game, last season as the starter. So, if you drop it down to, 14, 13, somewhere around there, he's still going to be awesome, and he's going to be running the ball a lot. So, you definitely want to check that blog out, but, that doesn't worry me a little bit.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson only playing, 7 games and having that kind of rushing attempt was not repeatable. So the fact that he wants to have less rushes, he doesn't want to put that kind of wear and tear on his body. But to say that he's going to get 10 rushes, I think is not. I think he could still be in the 12 to 14 category. The guy is an absolutely gifted runner, so he's going to find lanes. They're going to have play calls for him. There's going to be a lot of changing the plays at the line. So, I mean, I don't want to get too much into what Steve's blog is because it really does break it down really, really in depth about how much this guy potentially could be beneficial or not beneficial to your team. So all I'm going to say about him is that he's someone to look into. Read the article because it's definitely breaks. If you are curious about Lamar Jackson and whether so many people have him ranked high 20s because of his inaccurate and horrible passing season last year. Just look a little deeper. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, so our last article of news for today, free agent wide receiver Brandon Marshall will work out for the Indianapolis Colts on Friday. So he worked out for the Colts today. How do you guys feel about this from a fantasy angle? Is Brandon Marshall a guy that has anything left in the tank and could give you anything for fantasy this year? I mean, I will say he's never had a quarterback like Andrew Luck, and that is a team that loves big receivers. They just seem like they're just going out and getting as many big guys as they can.
Yeah, so last year he had Russell Wilson. They didn't really build a chemistry. I don't really think he is the type of wide receiver that Russell Wilson likes to throw to. That might have been a little bit of the issue, but I think he's better than Devin Funchess even at this point. So, I don't know. To me, if, Brandon Marshall tries out and, he looks any kind of good, I think there's going to be no hesitation. It's not like they gave, Devin Funchess millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, they gave him, I believe it was like a $10 million contract, but it's like the way it's written. I was reading an article, and basically the way it's written, it's like very incentive latent, so if he doesn't hit those incentives, they're not paying him anywhere close to $10 million. So, it is what it is. I think Brandon Marshall will come in there. He's going to get veteran minimum, and if he shows in, practice that he can still play, then he could end up being the number 2 wide receiver for this team with, the guys that they have on the roster. They have a rookie in, Paris Campbell. They have Devin Funchess, which I've already told you guys 100 times I think is terrible. So, why not wait and see what he does in camp? And if he looks good and he becomes the number 2, then, I'd rather throw a dart on him than Devin Funchess, really.
Well, Steve's dislike for Devin Funchess is not really going to make or break my point, but Brandon Marshall if he makes the team, he will not be on the team come week 6 or 7. I've seen this show before. I already know the ending. In Seattle and in New York, he played with 2 quarterbacks that are, incredible timing quarterbacks, and he just has an inability at this point in his career to get open. And, I watched a lot. I actually think I had him on my team last year for a short period. I gave him one last flyer, and I watched him pop in and out plenty of those Seattle games because they're always on TV in the beginning of the season because he didn't play towards the end. And he could not separate from these more athletic cornerbacks. He's a big guy, but Big's great, but you still have to be able to separate. And he couldn't separate, so they were just pulling him off the field constantly. And I remember the same thing happened in New York. Everyone talked about how him and Odell Beckham were going to be a dominant duo, and then Odell soared off, and he soared to the bench.
Well, he tore his ACL that year.
He did get hurt, but he didn't. Even before that, even in the season, he didn't have good game. He didn't have good games.
Yeah, he wasn't very good, but he tore his ACL. And for me, I love Brandon Marshall. Like I was very fortunate to draft Brandon Marshall that year with the Jets and Fitzpatrick, where he was. I think he finished like number 3 or 4 as a fantasy wide receiver, and was just great value because I think I got him in the 6th round that year. But yeah, I kind of agree with you, Dan. I think that at this point in his career, I don't know how much is left in the tank for Brandon Marshall. Even last year, Saints picked him up mid-season after he got let go by Seattle after he was done there, and Saints didn't even play a game for them, and they waived him. He just didn't even get a shot. So I just think it's a thing where I will say he's fully healthy, I guess. He's off the ACL 2 years now, so maybe he's worked hard at trying to get back. But for me, I just haven't seen enough to try and take a shot on Marshall at this point. So we're going to now get into our exercise. We're going to go through ADPs, and each round, people getting drafted in each round based on their ADP. We're going to determine our safest pick in that round, and we're going to determine our riskiest pick in that round. So first, all right, the first round, you have Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson, DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Le'Veon Bell, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, James Conner, and Tyreek Hill. We'll start with safe. Who do you think is the safest player? Start with you, Dan.
All right, I don't know if this is going to be a surprise, but I have Barkley ranked first, but I'm not going to pick him as my safest player because the Giant, as good of a year as I think he is going to have, and the most upside, he's got the most upside in the entire NFL. I'm going to go with Kamara because I love that Saints offense a lot more than I like that Giants offense, and Kamara has been doing this for this. This will be his third year that he is going to continue to progress, and now he's going to be, we talked about this will be the first year that he gets his 1,000 yards rushing, and he's going to get a lot more carries because Ingram was getting a lot of those carries. So safest pick out of that first round, I'm going with Kamara.
Yeah. For me, safest pick, I agree with Dan. I do think that he is, very safe. But I am going to go with Barkley. I just think, for me, I look for the most amount of upside, and I think Kamara has that this year if he runs, like Dan said, for over 1,000 yards and all that. I think he's a lock. He's definitely a lock for 80-plus catches and all that. But, I just think with all the things going on in New York, with the, all the injuries to the wide receiver position, Golden Tate being suspended, all that, Saquon is going to get millions of touches. He's going to touch the ball more than any running back in football this year, especially if Zeke and Gordon hold out. Not that Gordon has a chance to do that, but Zeke definitely does. And if they hold out, there's no, I don't see another running back getting more touches than Barkley, and that's the name of the game. You want a guy who's getting a whole shit ton of touches. I watched a lot of Saquon tape the past couple of days, and it didn't matter. If there was 8 men in the box, he still was killing guys. Last year, he had a game. I can't remember who I was listening to that said this, but I looked at the game after I heard it, and he averaged 8 yards a carry in a full stacked 8-man box. That's like the most in NFL history. He had 100 and I think in 10 rushes or 14 rushes, he had 100 and 30 yards against 8-man box against one team. It is just, that's insane. So to me, definitely Barkley is to me the safest.
See, for me, I can't pick a running back at all. To me, I just think running back injuries are way more frequent. If I'm going to say safest player, I'm going to say Julio Jones. Julio Jones has been top 5 receiver every year for the past 5 years. What you're getting from that guy. I think he has a ton of upside as well. But for me, safe, if I wanted to be extremely safe and know what I'm getting from the player, I think Julio Jones is the safest guy because year in, year out, he's giving you 1,400 yards. He's giving you clean bill of health pretty much. He's going to get banged up during the year, but he plays during those games and is still very productive. The only thing that's been a problem is his touchdowns. And even with his low touchdowns, he still finishes a top 5 receiver. So if he scores more touchdowns, he's going to blow up. So, safe, I think Julio Jones's floor to me is better than any other receiver in the league. Risky, I'll start it off only because I'm pretty sure me and Steve are going to have the same guy here, but I'm going to go James Conner. We talked a lot about it the other day on our AFC North podcast. James Conner was he scored a shit ton of touchdowns, and the offense is not going to be as good this year without Antonio Brown. So who knows what's going to happen to those touchdowns. Jalen Samuels is going to take away from his receiving work, and his rushing games were, hit or miss. I mean, he basically was 50-50 on whether it was a good rushing game or a complete shit rushing game. We talked about some games where he wasn't even getting 20 to 25 yards rushing. And with this, Jalen Samuel possibly taking receiving work, and if he doesn't keep up that touchdown pace, to me, he's going to be a bust.
Yeah, Connor for me. I just don't. I don't want to say I don't think he's good, because he showed some flashes of being good last year, but I just don't think he is the most talented of the guys going in the first round. And I would rather have, Cook in the first round. I would rather have, Mixon, Gurley. There's just 4 or 5 running backs I would rather have than Connor, and I'm not going to take him in the first round.
3 for 3, Connor 2. Just same thing we just all talked about. We're all not real high on him. Like I said, is he a product of the offensive line, or is he actually a really good running back? And I know it's his 3rd year in the league, but I could see a massive sophomore slump. Because last year was the first year he really had the workload. So I could definitely see a sophomore slump coming. And I think it's too good of an offensive line to say he's going to have a bad year, but to say he's going to have 12 touchdowns is I'm not sure about that. To say he's going to have a 1,000-yard season, behind that offensive line, he should, but I'm not sure about that too. And a lot of these other guys that we see in the first round, you can bet your ass that they're going to have these kind of seasons. So that's why it's a little bit of a risk. Round 2.
Odell Beckham Jr., Juju Smith-Schuster, Todd Gurley, Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Brown, Damian Williams, Mike Evans, Nick Chubb, Melvin Gordon. All right, I'm just going to say this: Melvin Gordon. We're eliminating as our riskiest player, because he's obviously the riskiest player.
Yeah, we can't talk about him.
Yeah. So, and last is Keenan Allen. Steve, I'll start with you. Which one of these guys is your safest player?
Could you do the first 3 again? I missed the first 3.
Odell Beckham, Juju Smith-Schuster, Todd Gurley, Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce, Dalvin Cook.
Okay, so for me, safest player on that list for me is probably, man.
That should be easy for all of us, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, safest player is probably Travis Kelce.
But it's got to be Kelce.
Yeah, it's probably Travis Kelce, but I don't know. I like a couple of those other players. Obviously, this second tier of guys is, second round of guys. A lot of them are injured. A lot of them are having issues. So, it's hard to say any of those injured guys. Obviously, Beckham's always injured. Seems like the past couple of years, and those other guys. But Kelce is, the model of consistency at the tight end position. So definitely gonna go with Kelce.
I like Kelce too, but I'm just gonna switch it up. I'm gonna say Gurley. You're getting a guy who should be going in the first round in the second round. So you're not getting better value than him. People are worried that he's going to be losing a majority of his carries, but I don't think he's going to lose a ton of carries. I think he's definitely going to play a little smarter, so he can extend his career and relinquish a little bit of the the workload. But like Kev said many times, 80% of Todd Gurley is still better than just about everybody else, and he's definitely, the last 2 years, he's been the best player in football. So I think he's definitely the safest.
Yeah, I'm going Kelce. He's been number 1 tight end for the last 3 years, and the guy's just a monster. He's the gold standard for the tight end position, and there's a reason he's going in the second round and no other tight end is going that high. I will say this on Todd Gurley, Dan. We talked. We saw a little news article that said they wanted to use Darrell Henderson like the same way the Redskins kind of used Chris Thompson. So what I did was I went back and cut all Todd Gurley's receiving in half. And took away about 50 carries from him at his yards per carry. And he's still the number 5 running back. So, he may lose a little bit of work, but Todd Gurley's still going to be a beast.
Good.
I wouldn't say he's the safest, or even say I wouldn't say he's safe really at all, just because there's so much hype about the knee. So it's hard to say he's safe. But if he to me, losing touches is not going to affect Todd Gurley finishing as a top 5 running back.
Yeah, all those projections of, possible reduction in play and touches, which I think there will be, just because he's got this little bit of lingering issue. But let's say Todd Gurley goes out there and he is Todd Gurley. I mean, you can't keep him off the field that much. The guy just, you put these, Henderson and whatnot out there, and they're not going to be anything. They're not even in the vicinity of Todd Gurley. So he's going to play. He's going to play a lot.
All right, Dan, and I'll start with you. Who would you say is the riskiest player in the second round?
All right. I know Steve's going to hate me on this one. Odell Beckham. And I'm only going with Odell Beckham because I think you could possibly see 2 gigantic hotheads not be on the same page. First year with each other, 2 unbelievable talents. But we've seen before that when you have 2 guys that are extremely talented, it doesn't always work out. Granted, I do think that they will develop a chemistry and they will, I think they're going to have a good year right away. I just think that a lot of these other guys that have rapport with their quarterbacks are safer. And although the upside and the upside on the Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield combination is through the roof with both of their athleticism, I think that it could be a little risky.
All right, yeah, I'll go next. About, I would say a week ago, I would have said Nick Chubb, but because of the Damian Williams hamstring injury, I got to switch it to him. This is a guy who has never had the job fully. He got the job in Miami a couple years back and got hurt his shoulder, I think, in literally 2 weeks after getting the job, and Kenyon Drake took over. Drafting Damian Williams here, and you already hear that he's got a hamstring injury, that's just a major red flag for me. And I wrote about him in a red flagged article that I wrote earlier, pretty much almost a month ago at this point, and I said, I think Damian Williams could be a stud, but he's never shown that he can play 16 games. And lo and behold, 2 weeks into training camp, and the guy's already having hamstring injuries, which are, to me, very scary because they linger and linger and linger. And, the hamstring injuries are something that this guy might not be right until week 6, week 7 of the season. And, to me, it just makes him a little bit of a risk compared to some of these other guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Dan. I actually, I know you think I might say I hated that call, but I think that's the easiest call to make in this round of guys that I'm worried about. I mean, past 2 seasons, he's not finished the season. So, definitely a guy that I'm worried about. And Odell Beckham, I don't really need to elaborate all too much. He, has had 2 season-ending injuries in back-to-back seasons, and he's definitely not any kind of lock to play all 16. And he's going basically the first pick in the second round. So, definitely makes me nervous.
My only thing about that is I think last year, to me, last year wasn't a season-ending injury. I think he basically just said, I'm not playing for these people anymore. So, I mean, I understand they had to label it an injury, but, I think the guy's with a team that he's happy with. He's got Jarvis Landry, who's his boy, and he's going to get in his ass if he tries to act stupid. And, I've heard good things about Baker basically yelling at these guys, making them come back on receiving routes when he's, scrambling around. So, definitely Odell is a risk. He's definitely a little bit of a risk because of the injury bug, but there's just other guys I think are a little more riskier in that round. We're going to round 3. You got Adam Thielen, Aaron Jones, Patrick Mahomes, T.Y. Hilton, Kerryon Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Amari Cooper, Zach Ertz, Marlon Mack, Devontae Freeman, Stephon Diggs, George Kittle, Josh Jacobs. I will say this. One of these rounds, it looks like actually one of these rounds we've been one more guy than 12. I'm just going off ADP. So ADPs, literally are an average of where these guys are being drafted. So some of these guys may be a little bit, there's going to be more than 12 guys in each round in some of the rounds, just like there may be less. So just keep that in mind.
All right. So for me, I think this is fairly simple.
Safest.
For me, I think this is fairly simple. I think it's, T.Y. Hilton. Yeah, I mean, of all these guys, I think, I know Stephon Diggs is, basically played all 16 games, but T.Y. Hilton, almost never misses games, ever. He plays hurt. He's always out there. You know what I mean? I think he missed, a game last year, one game or something, but he's never been known for a guy that misses games, and he's always, he's always reliable. So, for me, it's T.Y. Hilton. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about T.Y. Hilton missing games. I am worried about, Stephon Diggs would be the other guy in this round that I'm not worried about. But, my issue with Stephon Diggs is not injury concern. My issue with him is more, they are going to try to run the shit out of the ball, I think, this year. And, I think Stephon Diggs will be good, but I think T.Y. will be better.
I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs because I've been high on him. I've actually ranked him slightly above Thielen. I just think that he's turning a corner to becoming one of the elite receivers with, we've touched on his footwork and his ability to get open. So I actually will pick Stephon Diggs. I just think he's a smart player. I think he takes care of himself. He does, everything right on the field to stay healthy. And I don't get me wrong. I think that they are going to run the ball, but let's be honest. Kirk Cousins likes to throw, and he's been doing it his whole career, and I don't think they're going to, if he does tone it back, he's not going to tone it back by a large margin. So especially with the group of receivers that they have out there, when you have, a good buffet, you're going to eat a lot. So.
Yeah, I'm going to say Zach Ertz. Guy's been last year was number 2. The year before he was number 3 as the tight end. Him and Carson Wentz obviously have a great rapport. So for me, I would say Zach Ertz just because I think, do I think he's going to see a reduction in his, numbers from last year? Yeah, because last year was a career year. He had crazy numbers, but even if you go back 2 years ago when the offense basically that's how Philly wants to run their offense the way they did 2 years ago. And Zach Ertz was still the number 3 tight end. So, to me, Zach Ertz is the safest pick in this round because I still think he's easily a top 3 tight end and you're getting him in the 3rd round. And we've talked about how tight end is so valuable. Riskiest pick in this round. Steve, I'll start with you. I know who mine is. Everybody if you're looking at the screen, you know who mine is.
Yeah. I think we probably have the same guy. I think it's, for me, it's Devontae Freeman. For me, it's just Devontae Freeman. I never thought he had the size to be a number 1 running back. And, the past 2 seasons, he's proved me right. I think size in the NFL matters. I think you need that, that ability to withstand 300-pound large men dropping on you a lot as a running back. So, Devontae Freeman has just past 2 seasons been really injured. And, if they plan on giving him a big workload this year, I don't think he makes it out of this year either.
All right, I'm going to go with a guy that I am expecting to have a big year, but I think I think it's a risk because of how much they're going to work him right off the bat, and that's Jacobs. I think that they're not going to ease him into this role at all. The offense stunk last year. They didn't really do much they got Antonio Brown now, but who knows how good the passing game is going to be. I don't know how much people are sold on Derek Carr, but I think Jacobs is going to be thrown right in there. I think he's going to have big games. I expect him, if he can stay healthy, to have a great year, but that's why he's the biggest risk to me is because if he stays healthy for all 16.
I'm gonna guess your guy, Kev Mahomes.
No.
Kittle.
No. No. It is Amari Cooper. You guys have heard me talking about Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper had just 2 big blow-up games that really cemented his season, finishing in the top 24. I mean, other than that, the guy was fairly average, and he's been fairly average pretty much his whole career. I mean, he had one good year in Oakland when he was matched up when Derek Carr had an MVP season, Derek Carr. But, I don't like Dak as a quarterback. His accuracy and his, he's not a stand in the pocket, throw to, it's not, and Dak's not a stand in the pocket, hit a guy type of quarterback. He's a guy getting out on the run that's going to find an open guy. To me, if Zeke's not there, it makes it even worse because now all the focus is on Cooper. And when I think in the passing game, all the focus is going to be on him anyway. I mean, you look at, those couple games and they just targeted the shit out of him. And I just don't see how he had those games and he had massive amount of targets and had 2 games out of 9 that were very good. I think he's such a risk to take in the 3rd round. So, with that being said, we'll move on to round number 4. Julian Edelman, Derrick Henry, Brandon Cooks, David Montgomery, Philip Lindsay, Robert Woods, Mark Ingram, Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, A.J. Green, and James White. A.J. Green has now slipped to the 10th pick in the 4th round. Keep on dropping.
So I'm gonna do both my guys real quick so we can speed it up a little bit. We're at 52 minutes. So my guy that I am most confident in is Cooks. I just think we talked about him the other day. He is just the model of consistency at the wide receiver position. He's always going to be in the top 24. Basically since other than his rookie season, he's always been in the top 24. So I think he's the most consistent out of all the guys here. And the guy that I am most worried about it's a toss-up between the two, but for me, it's David Montgomery and Philip Lindsay. Both these guys make me nervous as shit. David Montgomery because we have no idea what his workload is, and Philip Lindsay because he, is another smaller back, and we don't know what his workload is. So I'm going to say Philip Lindsay just for the sake of this, what we're doing, because, I think people are drafting him thinking he's going to be as amazing as he was last year, and I just don't see that happening again.
Yeah, my riskiest guy is the same as Steve, Philip Lindsay. It's too early to pick a guy who's going to split. I mean, with 2 other guys now. I mean, the 49ers, they got their committee, but all their running backs are going a little later. I mean, Philip Lindsay's going way too early. If he's going to, Freeman's going to see any kind of touches, and obviously Theo Radek's going to be seeing a couple touches. They didn't sign him for nothing now, so I'm definitely picking Lindsay as my riskiest. See, Kev, who was the last 2 guys you need? 2 or 3 guys? Because
the last 4 guys are Kenny Golladay, Chris Godwin, A.J. Green, and James White.
All right, so yeah, that's what I want. James White would probably be the safest pick for me. He's steady Eddie. He's always there for, right out of the backfield, check down Charlie, whatever you want to call him. He's and he's always healthy. So I love James White. He's definitely the pick in that round for safest.
Yeah, PPR, I give you that one. I really would. These are PPR ADPs, and yeah, I really didn't even think about that. That was actually good, but I am going with Brandon Cooks for the same exact reason that Steve said. He's a model of consistency. He finishes, top 24 every year, and he's a boomer bust guy. He's going to have huge games, and he's going to have games where you're like, shit. But all in all, in the end of the season, he's going to be a wide receiver 2 and has the ability to be a wide receiver 1. So yeah, I think he's the safest pick. And my riskiest is David Montgomery, because just like Steve said, we don't know his workload. I mean, is this guy going to lose goal line touches to Mike Davis? I mean, they brought him in there for some reason. Now they did draft Montgomery in the 2nd round. They still got Tariq Cohen. So there's just a ton of guys there at the running back position in Chicago, and we don't know how it's going to work. So yeah, David Montgomery to me is the riskiest pick in that round. We'll move on to round 5. Oh, excuse me. You got Calvin Ridley, Cooper Kupp, Andrew Luck, Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett, Jarvis Landry, Sony Michel, Tyler Boyd, Kenyon Drake, DJ Moore, OJ Howard, Aaron Rodgers, Tariq Cohen, and Deshaun Watson and Evan Ingram. So round 5 is a shit ton of ADPs. I'll go first on this one. I think the safest pick to me is Chris Carson. I think he's going to get a shit ton of work there. He has had a little issue of missing games, but I think when you get into this range, pretty much everybody has, which is why they're there. But to me, Chris Carson's going to touch the ball a ton in Seattle. He's going to be their go-to guy, and I think you're guaranteed to get running back 2 production from Chris Carson, and drafting him in the 5th round. That's pretty much what you're drafting him to be. And my riskiest pick, I would say riskiest pick to me, I would say DJ Moore, because we've been talking about, how, Curtis Samuel is pretty much he did pretty much the same things and put up the same numbers as DJ Moore, and Curtis Samuel's being drafted, 8 rounds later. 5 rounds later. So, I would say DJ Moore is my riskiest pick.
Yeah, for me, the riskiest, I'll go first with riskiest. I think Sony Michel is the riskiest, just because of that knee injury. Yeah, just because of that knee injury, and I just don't think he's going to be. I just don't. Everything coming out of camp is just an issue. So it just, of all the guys on here, he makes me the most nervous. And my safest guy it's going to be one of the quarterbacks. Probably going to be Deshaun Watson, just because, all the other guys have injury concerns except really Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore, and both of them, I kind of think are just going to be, middle of the pack guys. I think that where they're being drafted is just okay. I'm not crazy worried about them. I'm not feeling they're real safe. So I'm probably going to Deshaun Watson safest because of the weapons he has at the wide receiver position, and last year he showed he could be healthy for 16 games. And I think if they, improve the offensive line, which I think they did this year, I think, he's going to be able to not get hit as much as he did last year, which is going to keep him nice and healthy for the season. So Deshaun Watson will be my pick.
Me and you must have been sharing brains on that one, because I was thinking about Deshaun Watson. I definitely thought to myself two quarterbacks. One of them I wanted to pick as well, because I didn't really like any of the other names. But just because Deshaun Watson is so much more electric and, runability, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. He's a pocket passer. Breaks out once in a while, but I just think that I think he's due for a huge year. You're getting pretty good value for what kind of stats he puts up. As far as riskiest, same thing you said, Stephen, would go with Sony Michel. We have heard nothing good come out of any news about Sony Michel this year. It's all been negative. It's all been, how long will he have the starting role, and all the little, negative points that have been surrounding him. So yeah, Sony Michel for the riskiest, and then Aaron Rodgers for the safest.
All right, in our last and final round for the exercise, we're going to start it off with Mike Williams, Tevin Coleman, Hunter Henry, Alshon Jeffrey, Lamar Miller, Baker Mayfield, Dante Pettis, Robbie Anderson, and Rashad Penny. Dan, why don't you go first?
All right, so safest, I'm going to go Alshon Jeffrey. I think he's a clear-cut number one for Carson Wentz. He's another guy that has huge games and then has mediocre games. I mean, he never has a bad game. The Eagles throw the ball way too much for him to have a bad game, but he's a guy he'll give you a 150-yard game and 2 touchdowns every third or fourth game. So he's never ranked up there in that first, second, third round. So he's got great value, and I think he's definitely a safe pick. He really doesn't miss it. I mean, he'll miss a game here or there, but he really doesn't miss a ton of time. For the riskiest, I'm going to go with a guy who, I know you guys are much higher up on, but it's a guy that I think will I just don't think I don't think he's going to get as much work as everyone else does. I think I'm going to go with Rashad Penny. I think Chris Carson is going to take over as being just a possible 300 carry, well, not 300 carry, 300 touch guy this year. So, and if someone's touching the ball 300 or more times, it doesn't really leave a lot of meat left on the bone for other guys.
Yeah, so for me, safest guy in this round, I am actually going to go. See, it's rough. It's just in this round. Yeah, in this round it's really rough for me. But I think my safest guy is Penny, because that raw offense. I think they're just going to run so much that I do think he's going to get touches. And Chris Carson has not been the healthiest guy in the world, so if he does get banged up, Rashad Penny's just going to jump into that number one role. And, I actually like Rashad Penny a lot. We talked, like Dan said, we're a lot higher on him than he is. So, I think safest for me is going to be Penny. And then, the guy that I'm most worried about, it's really hard to figure out which one I'm more worried about, Robbie Anderson or Mike Williams. For these two wide receivers, we told you about the Jets schedule in the beginning of the season. It scares the death out of me. This dude is going to see like 6 top 10 corners in the league the first 7 games. That's a rough schedule to start. So, but I think the guy I am more scared of is Mike Williams, because I have no idea how they're going to use him. If they use him the way they used him last year, he was basically just the deep threat. You know what I mean? If they use him differently, which I don't know that to be the case. I have no idea how they're going to use this guy, so it makes me like super nervous even drafting him at all. I don't have him in any one of my teams. I think I now have 20 teams that I've drafted already. I have like 12 more that I need to draft on ESPN, and we're a couple of sleeper leagues that we're doing, and I don't know if I'll have him on one. It just I might have him on one just to, see, just to say I had him. But I don't know. He just makes me super nervous.
Dude, you have 20 leagues already?
Yeah, because we've been doing it. Dude, 20 leagues already. Yeah, we've been doing, I have a couple of best balls that I did the other day and, all that shit. So, I'm including best balls.
Okay. I'll agree with Dan on the safest. I think Alshon Jeffrey is the safest. I think you're getting somebody who is the number one on a good offense, number one wide receiver. He's not necessarily the number one target, but he's number one wide receiver on a very good, maybe a great offense. And I think last year was a down year for him because Carson Wentz wasn't right coming back from the injury. I think if you look what is going to happen this year, the ball's going to get spread around a little bit more, and I think Alshon's going to see a lot more work than he did with Carson at quarterback than he did last year. Risky for me is Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's been in the league for 3 years and hasn't played a full season worth of games yet. So until you get a guy that can stay healthy. I mean, the guy's got a ton of talent, but at the same time, to me, he's been pretty much touchdown or bust. He's never been a big yards guy either. I think the most yards he had in the game was 80 something. I forget. I got to look it up again. But I don't think he hasn't had a 100-yard game, and he's pretty much been. If he's scoring touchdowns, he's good. If he's not, he's bad. And to me, a guy, in that area, people are drafting him to be like similar to the Evan Ingram, OJ Howard guy. And to me, he's not that. And with that injury risk, I just think he's incredibly risky. So that concludes the podcast for today, gentlemen. Don't forget, check out the website at www.fourthandinchesff.com. It's www.4THNINCHESFF.com. Bunch of content, articles, blogs, player profiles, and you can subscribe to our draft guide. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace.
Take it easy.